in a season, that adds up.
Yeah, that does.
It's a really expensive, field to delve into. And I could never really figure out how to pay for it all. There was a time where I was working 4 or 5 jobs, trying to do it. And when you're working that hard trying to make the money, like, it was affecting my singing. Like, I didn't have the energy to practice as much. And, I just couldn't ever really figure out how to make that work. And I realized that was really getting to me. And I was ready for something different. And so I made the decision. I remember it was like right before Thanksgiving, that year before I turned 30. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And I called my parents and I cried to them. And my mom was like, I kind of knew this was coming.
Mothers always know.
Don't they? Yeah. So she could tell, like, just with the way I was talking about it. And but it was like going through a breakup. It really was. My heart was broken. It was, it's like you're leaving someone that you know you're not meant to be with anymore, but your heart is broken because you loved that person. And that's how it felt when I left opera. And it was really tough to figure out who I was going to be in this new life. I had no clue what I was going to do next. None. I thought maybe like I'll go into marketing or PR, that's creative too. But then I after lots of research into that, I'm like, I don't know if that's the best fit. And it was actually another opera singer who went into tech, who was the first one who suggested learning how to code. Tyler Wayne Smith, he's working at a tech recruiter at Vimeo right now. And we sang together in an amazing, recital at Symphony Space in New York. And, he was like, hey, have you thought about coding? Like, there's such a need right now and you would be so, sought after. And I laughed in his face. I was like, are you kidding me? No, I'm an opera singer. Like, in my mind, I had this idea of the stereotypical computer person with, their headphones on in a corner and they're in a dark corner hacking away and like they don't know how to talk to people. And so I just laughed in Tyler's face and I was like, no, you're crazy. And then another friend actually recommended it to me, like completely, separate from Tyler. And I was like, why is this a thing? And so I started actually thinking about it. And I remember teaching myself HTML when I was working at a nonprofit music school in Harlem. And of course I didn't have anyone to update their website. So I was like, okay, let me teach myself. And I taught myself HTML and like did enough to like know how to update our events page and everything. And I actually really liked it. And I spent a little bit more time on it than I should have. I had a lot of other duties that I think I was shirking because I was playing around with it. So I was like, I did actually like that. Maybe there's something to this. And talking to friends, I think what really piqued my interest was the idea of these coding boot camps. Okay. And I had never heard of this. This was 4 years ago, so they were kind of just starting out, a little less prolific than they are today. And my friends were like, you go for 3 months and you learn how to code and then you get a job and it's amazing and you make so much money. And I was like, okay, this sounds incredible. Like I knew I didn't want to go back to 4 years of school or something like that and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, so I was like, all right, well, let me teach myself a little bit and see if I still like it. So sure. I did some courses online and I was like, I actually really do like this. I think I want to do this. And I talked to my brother who is an electrical engineer and like sheepishly presented this idea to him of like, hey, what do you think about me being a coder? Waiting for him to like laugh in my face. And, he was like, yes, oh my God, yes, do this. This is amazing. He was like, I want another engineer in the family. And so I was talking with him. He was like, here's a good question for seeing if you're going to like this. Mm-hmm. Do you like puzzles? And I was like, I do. Like, we do puzzles all the time. We're in my vacations. And he was like, do you get, really excited when you like figure out a puzzle at the end of it and you just high five everyone? And I was like, yes. And he was like, I think you would like building things. He was being an engineer.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I taught myself more and I applied to Flatiron School in New York and got rejected.
Oh.
And, I was like, okay, all right, I'll show them. So I taught myself more and I went to every Flatiron School meetup, because I knew that was one of the best schools in New York. And I was like, if I'm going to lay down all of this moolah, it's going to be at a good one. And you have to be careful because there are some ones out there that aren't so great.
Sure.
So I was like, I'm just going to make them accept me. So I basically stalked Adam, one of the co-founders, and went to all the meetups and like make sure I sought him out. I was like, Adam, guess what? Guess what I built? And and I applied again, and this time I got in. So stalking for the win.
Right.
Yeah.
When in doubt, stalk the founders. I like this idea.
Yeah. So then I did Flatiron School, which was 3 months, and it was intense. It was very, very intense. I don't think I've ever been so exhausted for such a long period of time in my life. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad it was as intense as it was because I really got a lot out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's great. So after your 3 months then, how did it work with transitioning to your first job? Did they help you do that? Or is it kind of like you're on your own now? Congratulations. Or how'd that go?
Yeah, so they have a whole career department that helps you get your first job.
Okay.
But mine happened to not come from that at all. Oh. I met the CEO of a branding agency at a wedding in Virginia. And this was actually before I went to Flatiron School. And, and the bride was like, oh my God, my cousin lives in Brooklyn. You live in Brooklyn. You need to meet. And, we were talking and he was telling me, what he does. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to coding school and learn how to build websites and all that jazz. And he was like, oh man, we have people that build websites for us. I'd love to have some kick-ass female devs on our team. Call me when you get out. And I did. Because you don't forget that offer. You're gonna take him up on that. So as soon as I graduated, I emailed him and I was like, hey, are you still looking for a kick-ass female dev for your team?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I think we are. And so he put me in touch with their team and I met with them and I interviewed. And there began, my time at Red Antler, which is a branding agency in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And, it was a really great experience. Mm-hmm. I got to build a lot of really cool websites designed by incredibly talented designers. So I'm really happy I had that. And it was wonderful. It was my first introduction to like the startup world. Mm-hmm. Where I'm like, there are dogs in the office? That's amazing.
There was. So wait, what other stereotypical startup-y things were in your office? Did you also have a ping pong table and then beer?
Yes, we had a keg.
Keg? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a full bar. They built a bar in the office, cause they would entertain clients as well. So we had ping pong and everyone was wearing hoodies and like sneakers and just like so different than any 9 to 5 I had imagined, which I think is exactly what I needed. Because, I mean, being an artist, you're like, damn you, 9 to 5, I could never do you. You're the worst. You're evil. Like, it seems so horrible, at least to me. Maybe that's just me. But I think this was perfect because it was such a relaxed environment and so chill. And I think if I had gotten a job where like I had to wear pantyhose, I would not have survived. Oh my gosh. If I had to be in there at like 8 o'clock in the morning and, you know, they would notice if I was in at 8:01, oh my God, I would have been fired after a week. Right. So this was a good, like, first step into that, you know, 9 to 5 world.
Yeah. You like put a toe in and ease your way in. That's nice.
Yeah. Yes. And I still don't want to wear pantyhose to this day.
No, not to the startup.
No.
That's too bad. So, what made you decide to then move to San Francisco?
So after 11 years in New York City, I was ready to leave. I was getting a little worn down by the intensity and the toxicity that can be, and ready for something new. I grew up outside of DC, then I went to Boston for school, and then I moved to New York. So I'd always been in those same type of East Coast cities. And I was ready for something new. And so I decided I really like San Francisco. Why the hell not? I was single at the time. There's nothing holding me back. So I said, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And I started looking for a job out in San Francisco. I also knew that I wanted a slightly different type of job. My work at Red Antler was all front-end coding, okay. Which meant I wasn't dealing with data or back-end logic, and I was really missing that. So I wanted something that's called full stack, where you're dealing with the data on the back end, and you're dealing with presenting that to the user on the front end. So since I knew I wanted to switch jobs to kind of switch up what I was doing, I was like, this is time to go to San Francisco. So I found a job there and I started at MavenLink, which is a project management and resource planning software. It's a B2B, company. Okay. And it was a great, experience.
That's great. So then let's see here. As you've been working in the last year, you started up Women's Level Up. What made you want? Yeah. Women Level Up.
Yeah.
I apologize. What made you want to? So what's that focused on, and what made you want to start that?
Yeah. So as soon as I moved out to San Francisco, I think they call it I became woke. That is like the right way of putting it. That's what the kids are calling it. Like all of a sudden I was, in Silicon Valley and, where feminism is a huge part of life out here because it's such a part of the industry where we've been dealing with gender discrimination. We've been dealing with sexual harassment. And so I started reading more and more about feminism and more about diversity and inclusion and completely nerding out about it. And it has now become a huge passion of mine. And a coworker of mine at MavenLink actually started a group at MavenLink called Maven Diversity. Okay. And MavenLink was amazing about it. They really supported it and, gave us lunch every other Friday to sit and talk about diversity and inclusion topics. Mm-hmm. And from that stemmed the idea of getting out into the community and doing something to help others. And this idea for a meetup came to fruition with the same woman that I started Maven Diversity with. We started Women Level Up, and it is a once monthly meetup in San Francisco aimed at female engineers. And we kind of lean towards mid-level or senior engineers, the meetups for beginners. Mm-hmm. And it's been a wonderful experience. It's always the last Monday of every month. So okay. For 3 weeks, I am freaking out trying to find speakers and trying to get it all together. And then 3 weeks